Hello everyone, Travis here, Mr. Travis here. This is our first ever sort of online LABrary, where what we're going to do is each week I'm going to give you guys a challenge, and then you can work on it over the next week, and then when you come back, when we post our next video, I'll have sort of what I made, because I'm going to do the challenges with you. And then I'll show you what I did, and then during that week, if you want to send me some photos or some videos about what you guys did, I'll share it on our video. So we can first ever LABrary. We are going to make our own mythological creatures. We're going to make our own new sort of monsters, our new magical beasties. And so to start, we're not going to just start diving in and making something. We're going to think a little bit about what we want to make. And how we're going to do that is I've got a little exercise for us. So the first thing we're going to do is I just got a blank piece of paper. So just get yourself some paper and get yourself a marker or a pencil or a pen. I just got a thick marker here so you guys can see what I write. So what we're going to do first, so I'm going to take a piece of paper and I'm going to draw a line right down the middle, like that. It's not quite right down the middle, but down the middle. And then, on the left, words, land. Perfect. Land. What I want you guys to do is to write down as many animals that live on the land that you can think of. You don't have to stop and think about it or not. It's just whatever comes to you. You know, you can start with anywhere. You can start with dog and cat and guinea pig, or you can hippos or whatever. We're just going to write it down. And I'm going to give us about 2 minutes. I've got to write down as many as I can in 2 minutes. And here we go. Wait, that's my 2 minutes. Okay. No, stop. Stop. Okay, so now I've written down a bunch of things that start or that live on the land. So I've got things like, what do I have? I have a dog, a cat, I have hippo, I have a bearded dragon, I have a regular dragon, I have a howler monkey, I have rhino, I have a lot of things. Okay, so on the other side of the paper, on the other side of the line, we're going to write the words sea. So again, what we're going to do is we're going to give ourselves a couple of minutes and we're going to write down animals that live in the sea. So we can think of, and we'll give ourselves another 2 minutes and go. Start writing. Oh, okay. So let's take a look. So now I've got a bunch of things that live on the sea on one side. So some of the things I have are a dolphin, I've got a hammerhead shark, I have an octopus, I have a giant squid, I have the blobfish, I have a cuttlefish, I have a manta ray. So I've got things that live on the land and I've got things that live on the sea. So now what we're going to do is get a new piece of paper. And we're going, on this one, we're not going to draw a line in the middle. But what we are going to do is we're going to look at things that live on the land, and one thing that lives on the land and one thing that lives on the sea. And we're going to combine them. Put them together. And what would that make? So, for instance, I have a cat and I have a clam. Cat. And what would I call a cat and a clam if I put it together? I'm just going to call it a cat clam. But I could also, a clammet. I could call it a clammet. So we're going to just put things together. And this is the same sort of thing. We'll give myself a couple of minutes and I'm just going to put ideas, take one thing from the sea, one thing from the land, put it, like smash them together and write it down with what we think that name would be. And so again, you don't have to spell this correctly. If you need some help writing it down, if you need to tell a grown-up what your ideas are and have them write it down, that's fine too. Okay, so we're going to give ourselves another 2 minutes, and we're going to write down as many combinations of things that we can think of. So ready? Here we go. Okay. So these take a little bit longer, and if you want to give yourself more time, you can take as much time as you want to write these down, but there's just a matter of getting ideas out. We're not really trying to think about this too hard. We're just trying to get it down on paper. So here are a few of mine that I came up with. I got a half cat, half clam. It's a cat clam. I've got a bearded dragonfish. I've got the howler sea monkey. I've got a blobhippo, which is half blobfish, half hippo. I got a yama-ray, which is half yama, half manta ray. I got a king crabon, which is half of a king crab and a dragon. I've got a dogfin. I got the giant squeep, which is a part squid, part giant squid, part sheep. I've got a cattle pig, or a cuddle pig. And then I've got the giant gorilla puss, which is part giant squid, part gorilla, part octopus. So I even mixed 3 things together. So these are now ideas. These are possibilities for my mythical creature. Now what we're all gonna do is we're gonna look at our list and we're gonna decide what mythical creature do we want to make? Which one's calling out to you? Which one's your favorite? So I'm gonna figure out which one I'm gonna do, and then we'll be right back. So now that we know you've got an idea of what your creature is, what's its name, now we got to think about all the other characteristics that make up your creature. So we really understand our creature before we even start to try and make it. And so I've wrote some questions down. It's going to force me to think a little bit, or a lot of it, about my creature. So some of the questions I have is, what's our creature's name? How big is our creature? What does the creature eat? And what would eat your creature? Ugh. Where does the creature live? How long does it live for? How does it move around? How does it get around? Is your creature afraid of people? Or are people afraid of your creature? What's the best environment for your creature? Meaning, does it need to be in warm, dry places? Does it need to be in a desert? Does it need to be in an ocean? Does it need to be in a salt water, or like the ocean that has salt water? Does it need to live deep under the sea? Does it live in a fresh water, like a lake or a river? And the last one I put is your creature threatened? Something affecting your creature that makes it so that there's not very many of them. Could it be that the places where it's like to live, there aren't as much places for it anymore? Or is it getting too warm for your creature, or is it too cold? Again, I have my list of all the things that I combined, and I've decided I am going to make the giant squeep. The giant squeep. And what the giant squeep is a combination, if we put together a giant squid and a sheep. So now I'm going to fill out all these other questions, and then we'll come back and I'll talk a little bit about it. And then after we write down all of the answers to our questions, I'm going to draw what I think a giant squeep would look like. Okay? All right, so now I've answered the questions about my mythological beast. So again, I made the giant squeep. And how big is my creature? It's up to 40 feet long and 20 feet wide. So it's kind of puffy because it's got a bunch of wool around its body, but then it's also got long tentacles. What does it eat? It's a vegetarian, so it eats seaweed and kelp, and it can even eat it can even absorb plankton through its wool. The wool will kind of grab the plankton and bring it in, and it can absorb the plankton through its skin. And what eats our creature, its biggest threat as far as that is schools of tuna. Schools of tuna gang up on the squeep, and it's its favorite food. So where does my creature live? It lives deep under the sea, but it has to come up pretty close to the top of the top of the water to eat. That's where all the good kelp is. And how long does my creature live? It says it's unknown, but we think it can live as long as sea turtles, which live for a long time, like more than 100 years. And how does your creature move? So it flaps its little tentacles along the bottom of the ocean, and then it also traps air in its wool, and when it gets a lot of air and there are a lot of bubbles, it helps it rise up, and then when it needs to sink, it'll expel those bubbles, and then it uses its tentacles to make more bubbles. So, and then, is my creature afraid of humans, or are humans afraid of it? It says sailors for a long time have hunted giant squeep because of the wool. This giant squeep wool is both warm and waterproof. But the squeeps are poisonous to eat for humans, so they don't eat it. They hunt it for its wool. What is the best environment for my creature? It loves the deep, cold water, but the wool helps insulate it in both cold and hot, so it can, well, not hot, but warm. So it can live in warm water while it's hunting, but then it likes to go back into the deep, cold. And then is my creature threatened? Is the squeep threatened? He says yes. It's very curious. The squeeps are, and they're not very smart, and they often get run over by submarines. Also, the squeep are hunted for its wool and its squeep ink. Okay, now I've finished drawing my squeep. So here's, I just used some markers, but so here he is. Did all green. So now I've answered my questions. I've drawn my photo or my picture, and now I am ready to make my squeep. So all I'm going to use, I'll show you some stuff that I have, but I've just found some stuff around the house. So I've got like some markers, and I've got some cardboard. I've got some string, some yarn. I've got like tissue paper. I've got a lot of markers. I've got some paint. I've got things like, an empty soda bottle. I've got an empty tissue box. I've got some ribbon. What else? I've got some glue. I've got some wire. I've got some pipe cleaners. It doesn't really matter. You can just find, whatever you have around the house. And as I say, next week, I will show you what I made and what I put together. But basically, I know what he looks like. I know how big he's got to be. I know some of the things that he needs, that it needs to live. I know how it moves around. I know what hunts it, so maybe what it would do to protect itself. So that's it. That's what I want you guys to do. And again, we'll give you some information here that if you want to share your pictures, or you want to share some of your ideas, or even if you want to share what you make between now and next Wednesday, anything that I get, I will share it on the video. So if you want to share what you made, or some of your drawings, or anything like that, I'd love to share it. So that's it. We'll see you next week. Thanks.